Every morning in Miami begins with Catherine's soft laughter. "Mama, I can see the ocean today too. Such a beautiful blue." 7-year-old Catherine spread her arms wide toward the horizon visible from her second-floor bedroom window. As white lace curtains swayed in the morning breeze, Helen Wilson smiled at her daughter's innocent gesture while feeling a slight pain deep in her heart. Lately, she had begun to sense something wasn't quite right with her husband. One morning in early summer 2004. The Wilson family's breakfast table in their middle-class neighborhood, where coconut trees swayed in the breeze, appeared peaceful on the surface. George, who prided himself as a high-end real estate broker, was sipping his Blue Mountain coffee while scanning the real estate section as usual, while Mother Helen was carefully plating organic toast and scrambled eggs. "Daddy, I have a swimming championship this weekend. You absolutely have to come watch." Catherine gazed at her father with expectant eyes while slightly askew tie of her Miami Country Day School navy blue uniform. "Ah, right," George responded without looking up from his newspaper. His hands were trembling slightly. The economics section featured headlines announcing the collapse of Miami's real estate market. Catherine was in first grade. She was the most energetic in her class, particularly standing out in swimming lessons. When she entered the pool, she moved as freely as a mermaid, earning quite a reputation throughout the school. Coach Jennifer Morrison had recognized her talent and begun special training, seeing her as a potential future Olympian. "Cassie, you have a special gift," the coach gently told Catherine as she dried her hair with a towel after after-school practice. "The water loves you, and you love the water. That's a gift from God." Every Tuesday and Thursday after school, Catherine devoted herself to special training at the school pool. She would repeat the same motions over and over to perfect her butterfly form. Her efforts paid off when she won a gold medal in her age group at the district competition. Her parents proudly photographed their daughter's radiant smile on the podium. However, no one knew about the deep darkness George Wilson was harboring behind this bright daily life. The collapse of Miami's real estate bubble had shattered his investments to pieces. What had started as a small debt of a few tens of thousands of dollars had now ballooned to $1 million through gambling-like speculative trading and loans from illegal loan sharks. At night, the atmosphere in the house changed completely. "I can't take it anymore, everything's over," George would moan, rolling an empty whiskey bottle on the living room's luxury leather sofa. His once confident gaze was now hollow, bearing no resemblance to his former self. Though Helen was bewildered by her husband's rapid transformation, she desperately tried to maintain a smile in front of their daughter. Increasingly, Catherine would wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of her parents arguing. How did it come to this? Her mother's sobs. "Shut up. What do you know?" her father's shouts. Each time, Catherine would curl up small under her blanket and bury her face in her pillow. "Hey, Mama," Catherine asked her mother one quiet night in bed. "When I grow up, I want to be a ship captain." What a wonderful dream," Helen answered while gently stroking her daughter's golden hair. Moonlight cast soft shadows in the room. "Yes. Because when I'm in the ocean, I can forget everything. When I'm in the water, I can't hear Papa and Mama's voices." That innocent confession tightened Helen's heart. Her young daughter had keenly sensed the family's strain. She held her daughter tightly, holding back tears. The frequency of doorbell rings increased. Unknown men wearing black sunglasses would visit for business meetings with her father. Each time, her father's expression would harden, and her mother would pray in the living room. They could no longer attend Sunday services at St. Patrick Catholic Church together with Father recently. God, please protect our family. Especially Catherine. From the shadows of the dark stairway, Catherine would watch her mother pray. Young as she was, she sensed something irreversible was about to happen. However, even as they waited for God's response, the debt collector's threats intensified. 1 week. Have the money ready by then. Think about your family. Such words cast an ominous shadow over the quiet residential area of Coral Gables. Catherine gazed at the distant ocean from her window. The water's surface glowed as if burning in the sunset. Her eyes still reflected only hope and admiration. Sunday morning, August 15, 2004. Pre-dawn darkness still enveloped Miami. Cassie, wake up. Catherine opened her eyes to her mother's voice, puzzled by the earlier than usual wake-up time. The clock showed 4:30 a.m. We're going fishing as a family today. Really? Yay! Catherine jumped out of bed. Usually she would go back to sleep on holiday mornings, but the word fishing instantly dispelled her sleepiness. Is Daddy coming too? Yes, Helen answered while adjusting her daughter's t-shirt collar. Catherine didn't notice her mother's hands trembling slightly. At the Port of Miami dock. In the morning fog, George's 28-foot cruiser stood like a dark shadow. The harbor security cameras mechanically recorded that shadow and the 3 figures boarding it. Be careful, the dock manager called out. The forecast says it'll get rough this afternoon. It'll be fine, George answered curtly and started the engine. Beyond the horizon, dawn's light was gradually beginning to color the sky. Catherine stood at the bow, her eyes sparkling as she felt the morning breeze. Look, dolphins, she called out innocently at distant fins she spotted. On the rear deck, George was silently preparing a small boat. Daddy, how far are we going? Catherine asked when they were already about 3 miles offshore. George didn't answer. He just mechanically continued lowering the small boat into the sea. Cassie, come here. Catherine obeyed her father's voice and moved to the small boat. We're going to get bait, wait here. That's when she first felt something was wrong. Her father's eyes weren't looking at her. Her mother was crying. Mama. The engine sound grew distant. The small boat had no engine. Papa. Mama. Catherine's screams were absorbed into the morning fog. Where are you going? Wait. The cruiser grew smaller and smaller. The last thing she saw was her mother's back clinging to the railing, and her father's hard expression as he steered without looking back once. Time passed. The sun rose and began illuminating the sea's surface. The small boat slowly rotated, rocked by the waves. The 7-year-old girl had no idea where she was or even which direction was which. God. She repeated prayer words learned at church with trembling lips. Sweat poured out. Her throat was parched. Her eyes hurt. The wave's swells made her nauseous. It was around noon. As her consciousness began to fade, Catherine witnessed a strange sight. She thought she saw a woman who looked like her mother emerge from the water's surface. Little girl. She heard a voice. This time it was definitely a human voice. When she opened her eyes, a large fishing boat was anchored next to her boat. Are you all right? Captain Michael Brown had been fishing these routes for 25 years. Today too, He was supposed to take his usual route, but somehow felt like going in a different direction and changed course. The veteran captain's intuition saved a young girl's life in that moment. There had been reports of suspicious small boats in the area recently, Michael explained to the Coast Guard. I'd reported to the police several times myself. I never thought. When rescued, Catherine had a high fever. Her 7-year-old body was near its limit after drifting for over 8 hours under the blazing sun. But she was alive. At the Miami Coast Guard base, Michael quietly whispered beside Catherine as she lay on a stretcher. "It's okay. You're safe now." At those words, Catherine cried for the first time. With a trembling voice, she answered, "Thank you, Captain." On the way to the base, wrapped in a rescue blanket, Catherine stared at Michael's uniform epaulets. There shone the proof of Captain she had dreamed of. Ironically, her encounter with ships had come about in the worst possible way. However, Catherine didn't yet know that this harsh experience would chart a new course for her life. Miami police immediately launched a large-scale investigation. The media competed to report the incident, and the city was shocked. While headlines like "Parents Abandon Their Beloved Child," "Miracle Return in Miami Bay," and "7-year-old Girl's 8-hour Battle for Life" danced across papers, Catherine quietly gazed at the ocean from her hospital bed. "You want to be a captain?" Mary, her assigned nurse, gently asked. "Yes," Catherine nodded slightly. "But right now, I'm a little scared." "It's natural to be scared. But remember, you might be a child chosen by the sea." Those words were deeply etched in Catherine's heart. On a summer morning in Miami, Catherine greeted a new day in a mansion on Fisher Island. "Good morning, Cassie," Elizabeth Hamilton smiled peacefully while preparing breakfast on the terrace. A sweet pancake aroma wafted from the outdoor kitchen, while the distant sound of tour boats echoed. 3 months had passed since the incident. "Good morning, Aunt Elizabeth." Elizabeth showered deep affection on Catherine, whose golden hair reminded her of her own daughter Sarah, who had died at age 14. Elizabeth's husband Robert watched Catherine's condition while reading the newspaper. The businessman, dubbed the "Sage of the Maritime World" by Forbes magazine, had immediately volunteered with his wife to be foster parents. "There's something we can do," he had said when making that decision. Captain Michael Brown was also at the breakfast table. It had become his habit to visit this house every weekend and tell Catherine stories about navigation. "Remember the first words you said to me that day?" "Yes." "Thank you, Captain." "That's right. The light in your eyes then. It wasn't just fear. There was hope too." The process of trauma care wasn't smooth. She often woke from nightmares in the middle of the night, and especially couldn't sleep on stormy nights. Through twice-weekly sessions with Dr. Sarah Cohen at the Miami Shores Wellness Center, Catherine gradually faced her past. "Are you afraid of the ocean?" Dr. Sarah asked one day. "No," Catherine answered while gazing out the window. "The ocean didn't try to kill me. The ocean led me to my new family." The trial of her birth parents didn't lead to criminal charges due to insufficient evidence. However, the court immediately stripped them of parental rights and approved the Hamiltons as foster parents. "God's guidance," Elizabeth said tearfully. New semester at Miami Country Day School. Letters from classmates were placed on Catherine's desk. "Welcome back, Cassie. Our mermaid has returned." However, she no longer entered the pool. Instead, she devoured books about maritime shipping in the library. She particularly favored books about merchant marine studies and business management. The librarian's eyes softened at this strange 7-year-old's intellectual curiosity. "Cassie, look at this." One day, Robert invited Catherine to his office. Top floor of a high-rise on Brickell Avenue. Outside the window spread the view of Port of Miami, where countless container ships crossed paths. "This is our work. Carrying things by ship." "Yes. It's important work that supports people's lives." 10 years later, Catherine's life proceeded straight ahead, like a ship catching a tailwind. In high school, she excelled in the International Maritime Business Program. In extracurricular activities, she distinguished herself in the Maritime Committee of Model United Nations. She was granted early admission to Harvard Business School, majoring in maritime business management. Her graduation thesis, "Future of Sustainable Maritime Transportation," was featured in industry journals. When she officially stepped up as heir to Hamilton Shipping at age 22, the industry was surprised. There were voices saying she was too young and inexperienced. However, Robert firmly supported her. "My daughter knows the sea better than anyone. Because the sea chose her." After taking office, Catherine implemented bold reforms. Development of environmentally conscious new ships, AI utilization for operational efficiency, improvement of crew working conditions. All were measures that overturned industry conventions. And by the time she was 27, her abilities were widely recognized as the industry's youngest CEO. The Wall Street Journal reported her as the maritime industry's revolutionary, and Forbes featured her in 30 Under 30. Behind her success were always people who supported her. Captain Michael still visits her home on weekends. Now, Catherine is in the position to tell him about new routes. Elizabeth sometimes whispers while proudly watching her daughter's growth, "Sarah must be happy too." Robert continued to be a good advisor even after passing on the chairman position. At a charity event at Vizcaya Museum, Catherine spoke from the podium. "The sea can be cruel at times, and gentle at others. But it always shows us the way. What's important is to listen to its voice. And never let go of hope." After the speech, Catherine stood alone in the garden. The sea surface illuminated by moonlight swayed quietly. "Ready?" Captain Michael's voice came from behind. "Yes." Catherine took a deep breath. "All preparations are complete for the new ship's unveiling party." No one had anticipated that this party would become the place for settling a 20-year-old fate. And that a new voyage was about to begin in Catherine's life. On the table lay the guest list. Among over 500 names, there quietly appeared the name, George Wilson. Catherine gazed at that name while quietly smiling. At dusk on August 15, 2024, the Second Chance, floating in Miami Bay, was dyed golden by the sunset. The state-of-the-art environmentally conscious ship, 280 meters in length, drew many spectators' eyes with its sophisticated silhouette. Over 500 industry figures gathered on the upper deck to celebrate the launch of a new era. On deck, a 15-piece string orchestra played Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. As those notes floated on the sea breeze, Miami's signature dishes like Joe's Stone Crab's special stone crab claws and locally made key lime pie were arranged on tables with fine linen tablecloths. In the VIP area, industry leaders eagerly discussed the new ship's innovative technology. 80% environmental impact reduction is revolutionary. As expected of Catherine Hamilton, always one step ahead of the industry. To think she's come this far from that tragedy. In one corner, an elderly couple stood nervously. George Wilson in a slightly faded gray suit with an old-looking tie, and wife Helen in a navy dress that no longer fit her current figure. 20 years had completely stripped them of youth, former dignity, and above all, confidence. Long since reduced to working as small-scale ship brokers. Their $200 annual membership in the Miami Maritime Association was barely maintained as their last connection to the industry. When the invitation arrived, they pondered long and hard. Should we really come? Helen gently gripped her husband's arm. It's combined with the annual meeting. As members, attendance is natural. George's voice trembled as if trying to convince himself. At 7 p.m., spotlights illuminated the central stage. As the venue fell silent, Catherine stepped onto the stage wearing a deep blue Armani suit. A modest pearl necklace gleamed elegantly at her neck. Captain Michael watched from beside the stage. 20 years since the rescue, he had become like a real father, never missing his weekend visits. Next to him stood Robert and Elizabeth. Though they had already retired from active management, they attended for this special day. Thank you all for coming today. Her clear voice enveloped the venue. This ship's name has a special meaning. 20 years ago today, I received a second chance at sea. The screen showed a small shadow captured by Port of Miami security cameras on August 15, 1994. A small cruiser that a family boarded in the morning fog. The venue quietly stirred. Many participants knew of that incident, passed down as the miracle of Miami Bay. Then, a voice rose from the back of the venue. What a wonderful ship. I'd like to meet its owner. Helen Wilson, accompanied by her husband George, timidly stepped forward. Clutching an old handbag with both hands, her shoulders trembling. Catherine stepped slightly away from the microphone and smiled quietly. Do you remember me? Her voice held no anger, no hatred, no sadness. It was just clear, like a quiet wave. As if 20 years had sublimated everything. The blood drained from George and Helen's faces. When they recognized that the successful person before them was the 7-year-old girl they had abandoned in a small boat, their legs began to shake. This isn't for prosecution, Catherine continued. It's just to record the truth. And as testament to a new departure. The screen displayed the collapse of Miami's real estate bubble in the 1990s, illegal loan sharks, the million-dollar debt, and the insurance fraud scheme. All the truth was shown with cold data. Small sighs escaped from the audience. Catherine gazed at her former parents. I heard that back then, you chose a method that gave me a chance of survival rather than killing me outright. Ironically, that choice gave me my true life. The venue fell silent as water. Of course, I can't forgive you. We probably won't meet again. But I want to acknowledge the fact that that day led me here. Helen wept. George froze. The two quietly left the venue. The surrounding participants naturally made way. Like leaving a place they would never return to, the elderly couple's backs disappeared into the twilight. At the end of the party, Catherine stood with Captain Michael on the top deck, feeling the night breeze. In the distance, Miami's city lights twinkled. Cassie, any regrets? None. This is the course I've chosen. Catherine leaned lightly against the railing. The party was already over, with only the sounds of the orchestra packing up echoing on the deck. Those two hadn't changed at all, had they? Elizabeth gently placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder. No. But they no longer affect my life. That's right. You have your real family now. Robert silently took Catherine's hand. At that warmth, she smiled from her heart. Hey, Captain, Catherine suddenly asked, like the 7-year-old girl she once was. Did I really become a captain? Michael smiled gently. Yes, a fine captain. You'll continue to guide many people's lives onto the right course. The first stars began twinkling in the night sky. On the distant horizon, the light of a new day was faintly visible. It shone surely and eternally, as if pointing the way to the future. The ship's engines quietly began to hum. That night, the Second Chance departed from Miami's port. As if announcing the dawn of a new era,